Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this live stream.
Zeg je date me af, want wat ik je...
Yes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Wimbo Formula live stream on the 9th of August in 2025. Is everybody enjoying the summer break? I haven't missed Formula One yet, but it's because, I'm always doing stuff relating to Formula One. So I'm just going to say hello to everybody who just joined. Hello, Marie B. Welcome. Samantha, hi, honey. Tanvir, good to see you. Christina, hello. Aldo. And live your life or something. So yeah, I prepared a ranking the 2025 grid. Yeah, Marie, you're in Australia, aren't you? So you're in the middle of winter there, and yeah, I don't know how cold it gets in Australia in the winter. Hey, Ivan, nice to see you, buddy. Yeah, so I prepared a live stream grid ranking, and I have to say, I've been very kind. I've split the grid into 3 ranks. We've got the rookies. I think rookies should be dealt with on their own merit. So I took in consideration how young they are and what car they're driving and the overall performances, and if it leaves anything, to be wished for that driver. Then I have another segment with the team changers, because going to another team is very hard. So I ranked a few drivers who went from one team to another, and I ranked them accordingly. And then there's the rest. And yeah, I think it's interesting, but obviously, you can all yell your own grades. I graded it in the American system from A being the best and F being the worst, and D is so, and A B C D E is also pretty bad. Yeah, and A is the best. I didn't do any A minuses and A pluses. Didn't couldn't be bothered doing that. So yes, Marie is in Sydney. Yeah. So I think I'm just gonna get started here. So I prepared this. Okay, I have to make sure. Oh no, I ruined it. Yes. So I'm gonna start with Franco Colapinto. As you see up on top in the small letters, I'm starting with the rookies, and out of the rookies, I think Colapinto has had enough opportunity to show what he's got, and he hasn't scored any points. He's outqualified Pierre Gasly maybe once, which is a hard thing to do, I admit, but he's quite far off from him. And he's crashed a few times. The other day he was doing tire tests for the FIA, and he also crashed, and he needed to go to get checkups and everything. So, I know I don't have any Argentinian viewers, so I can say this. Um, I don't think he's going to be there in 2026. Especially with Flavio Briatore being his team boss. Martin Brundle recently said that Briatore sees drivers as commodities and he swaps them whenever he wants to, and he's always done that. I finished reading the book about Johnny Herbert on my holiday, and Johnny Herbert was put into the what do you call it, the Benetton seat in '94, 2 races at the end, and then he got the seat, but actually Flavio Briatore didn't want him there, so I think he moved him to to another team. So yeah, Flavio Briatore doesn't mind doing that. I just noticed Hank is in as well. Hi Hank, good to see you. Right, so the next driver, I sort of spoiled it already, is Jack Doohan. Now, Jack Doohan, he raced about 6-7 races. He crashed the car because he didn't close his DRS in time. He also had like 6-7 races to show what he's worth, and he didn't show much. Now I have to take in consideration that he's in an Alpine, which is, as you can see in the standings, the slowest car. I think it's very track dependent, but even on the good tracks, Jack Doohan couldn't show anything other than being able to drive it around in circles. As you see, I gave both drivers, Colapinto and Doohan, a D, right? So I didn't give them an E, I didn't give them an F, I gave them a D, which is, they've showed enough to be in F1, but it leaves a lot of possibilities for them to improve. It leaves a lot of room to improve. That's what I wanted to say. Hey, Polish Eddie. Okay, well, keep your eyes on the road and just listen. Yes, I watched your latest rap. It was good. Okay, so yeah, Jack Doohan. I don't know if we're gonna see Jack Doohan back. I do like the kid, and it's always good to have Australians on the grid. So let's see what happens. But I think I'm being kind with giving those two drivers a D. Okay, here's the next one. Kimi Andrea Antonelli. He gets a C, and that's because he's put the car on pole for a sprint race, and he scored a podium. So his highs are pretty high. Now his lows, they're pretty low as well. But this is something that is normal for a rookie, And the kid's 18 years old. He's such a cute kid as well. I'm actually watching Lord of the Rings again for the I don't know how many time, and to me, Kimi Antonelli is like Frodo with the curly hair and the big eyes. He's my Frodo. But yeah, he suffered a lot from that upgrade that Mercedes put on a couple of races ago, and he just stopped scoring points altogether. Then he crashed Max out in Austria, and I think in 7 races he scored 1 point, and that was in the last race. So hopefully he's finding his way up. Driving at Silverstone in the wet, it's not easy, especially for an 18-year-old rookie. So I'm giving him a C because his peaks were pretty high, and that takes away the lows. Otherwise, I would given him a D, just like Doohan and Colapinto. The next driver. Oh, don't spoil it. Oliver Bearman also gets a C. Obviously, in a Haas car, it's a lot harder to impress. What I find really impressive is that he's outqualified Ocon so many times. Now, you could say that Ocon wasn't used to the Haas package, but then again, Bearman wasn't used to the Haas package either. Although I have to say that Bearman wasn't used to any F1 package because he did about 3 races last season. He replaced Sainz and he replaced Magnussen. Yeah, so he done races, but he never really got time to get used to the package. I think Bearman is a great kid as well. That we've got a really good set of rookies this season. I love how tall he is and how posh he speaks. And yeah, these rookies are all pretty well trained, but you can still tell that they're real most of the time. I'll be very disappointed as soon as Bearman gets the proper media training and he turns into Russell, because I find Russell and Bearman so far very, very much alike. They're tall and pretty and they talk posh. But let's go to the chat because I see you guys have been writing a lot. Christina says D as in decent. Yes. I hope you can find something for every letter I'm using. So a C is for class. Hank says Jack Doohan got 6 races but was ways. Oh wait, my chat just disappeared. Oh, there it is. Jack Doohan got 6 races, but it was way slower than his teammate Gasly was. He doesn't bring a lot of money. No, Doohan doesn't have the sponsorship Kimi Antonelli has. But yeah, I don't give grades on sponsor money. And Hank says Kimi Antonelli has shown slivers of speed, but didn't do enough to impress massively. Yeah, well, podium, pole, pretty good. Ivan says Antonelli was a pleasant surprise. I was afraid he wouldn't be able to cope with it after his quick crash in FP1 last year. Yeah, I think he's sometimes too careful now. But yeah, you never know. He had a lot of technical problems as well. Oh, that's what Tanvir says. I think he should be a B for Kimi, given the amount of mechanical failures he had. Yeah. I suppose if you're in a slump and then you're trying to get out of it and your car keeps breaking down, then you won't get out of that slump. And that's why you get 7 races with 1 point. So you have a point there, Tanvir. Christina says, I believe Kimi would be happier in some B team for his rookie season. That's true. I think if you swap Sainz with Antonelli, Mercedes would be better and Williams would be pretty much the same because Carlos Sainz is struggling a lot. Hey, Mafadelo! So nice of you to join. And yeah, I don't see you very often in the chat of a live stream, so perfect. Hank says Bearman does a decent job actually. Therefore, a C score is minimal. Yeah, it is minimal, but you know, he could do better as well. You know, um, there's been a lot of anonymous races. There's been a lot of races where he finished 11th. You know, so if you're that close to the points, then maybe you should force something. Christina says, please don't destroy my vision of Ollie. I won't survive another Russell. That kid is a future Ferrari driver. True, but you do see the resemblance. And, you know, as soon as Behrman starts snitching and making big drama at the stewards, then, you know, he's a Russell clone. Sorry. Thank you, Mafadelo. But I think all my live streams are worth watching, if I say so myself. Okay. So who's the next driver? I think I spelled Bortoleto's name wrong again, with 2 T's. I'm stupid. Yeah, Gabriel Bortoleto, for a long time this season, he was on a D. Yes, which was decent. But lately, he's been outperforming or outqualifying Nico Hulkenberg, which is pretty good. And he's starting to score points, and good points as well. He beat Max Verstappen the last race. So there might be a little bit of recency bias in there. But yeah, he's doing really well, and he's a nice kid. And don't forget, he's doing what he's doing in a Sauber, in the Stake F1 car. And that one has been really bad at the start. But yeah, Jonathan Wheatley, he's fixed the slow pit stops. He fixed a lot of the strategy, fixed a lot of things internally in that team. And I'm actually starting to get a little bit hopeful for Audi. You know, they might be P9, P8 next season instead of the P10 that I thought they would be. So yeah, that's my idea on Bortoleto. And then who do I have as a super rookie? Isaac Hadjar. He's getting a B from me. B for Bull, Red Bull. C is capable. Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you, Mavadelo. Okay, so Hadjar started the season by crashing, going to the grid in Australia. That was a little embarrassing, especially with all the crying he did, according to Helmut Marko. It gave Anthony Hamilton a platform as well to show what a good guy he is, even though his son sacked him and he got sued by Paul Di Resta. But anyway, we can let that go now. Hadjar picked himself up, and I don't know whether it's the Racing Bulls car that is completely to his liking, because it's a very benign, very balanced, nice car. Slower than the Red Bull car, but nice. But he's been pretty much the second best Red Bull driver out of the 4. And time after time after time, he was, beating his teammate. Now, obviously, he was helped by getting a new teammate twice. But still, he managed it all really well. And yeah, we'll talk about Liam Lawson later because I have him in the team changers. But he did a really good job against Liam Lawson, and I think Hadjar is a very promising driver, a feisty little fella. So that's the rookies. Let me see what you guys said in the chat. Okay, Christina says Sauber is becoming a pretty serious force in the midfield. Yeah, they definitely improved. Tanveer says form past few races, I would give him a B, maybe an A, as it is a Sauber. Okay, Tanveer is very generous. Nice. Marie says, will be great to see how Gabi does in the Audi. We might be pleasantly surprised. We'll keep an eye out on that. And Polish Eddie says, Bortoleto should get a B. Okay. Hank says, the Sauber isn't the tractor it was anymore. Binotto did great work there. Yeah, I forgot about Mattia Binotto, but he's there as well. And he's probably pushing the design team in the right direction. Polish Eddie says, rookie season and he has been constantly ahead of Hulk and the 6th place finish last time out. B from me for sure. Duly noted. Christina says, Audi wants to beat Ferrari in 2026, so P9, P10. Oof. Tanveer says, B is better and A is ace. Okay. Hadjar is fast, says Henk. Ivan, I really felt for Hadjar after his crash in Melbourne. Taking into consideration he was able to have a talk with Dr. Marco. Yeah. Okay, and everybody's agreeing with each other. Marie says, what was that about Paul Di Resta? Well, Paul Di Resta was managed by Anthony Hamilton, Lewis Hamilton's father. But then they had a dispute over money or, I don't know. And Paul Di Resta sued Lewis Hamilton. No, Anthony Hamilton. Look it up. Polish Eddie says Hadjar B for sure. Well, that's what I have as well. Maybe even an A. People are. I thought I was being generous, but people, you guys, the chat is even more generous than me, which is nice, because I hate these YouTubers that go F F. Oh, he was dog shit. F F. You know. Be nice. It's hard, especially for rookies. Christina says, so far I cannot decide if Gabi or Isaac is a rookie of the year for me. No, we'll just finish the rest of the season, and then we can decide. Okay. And now we're going to the next chapter. I took 22 minutes for this one. Okay. I should have made these letters a little bit bigger of the team changers, but I'm sure you can read. So yeah, the team changers is the drivers who went from one team to the next. And I'm starting with Yuki Tsunoda. He started the season at Racing Bulls, and then he was placed at Red Bull and scored very minimal points. Crashed the car. Did a little bit of complaining that he didn't get the upgrades that Max got. Had a few comments that weren't clever, like saying, "Oh, I don't find the car hard to drive at all. It's just a little tricky." And then, yeah, he didn't perform. Then I suppose he was unlucky a lot of times as well. I think he was on for a good point in Belgium, but they pitted him a lap too late and he dropped out of the points. But yeah, all in all, I gave him an E. I do hope for him that it's getting better, but it is a Red Bull car, you know, and Perez got fired for not performing in there. Liam Lawson got 2 races in there and didn't perform, and Yuki Tsunoda, he had like 12 races and maybe he scored points in 2 of them. It's just not enough. Or do you guys think I'm being too harsh on him? No. In that car, even though it's really complicated to drive and everything, E is obviously for embarrassing. That's a good one. It's a little embarrassing. But yeah, I don't want to go on about Yuki because I love Yuki. But if this continues, then he might be out of a seat next season. In my silly season prediction for 2026, I had him in Aston Martin. But I don't think that's going to happen anymore because Stroll and Alonso will be there. But let's see what happens. Okay, next driver. There's the other temporary Red Bull driver, Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson had 2 terrible weekends at Red Bull. Then he went to Racing Bulls, and even though he says it didn't do anything for him mentally, a lot of times he didn't score points or was beaten by Hadjar. But recent form has gone up, and that's why I'm giving him a D. I think he scored a... Yeah, he outscored Max as well. Yeah, he was ahead of Max in P8 in Hungary. So, yeah, he's finding his way up as well, which is good. But yeah, these guys, they started the season full of, spunk and, hey, I'm not here to make friends and, I'm going to show the world what I can do and I'm here to win races. And then reality hits them hard. And if you take into consideration that it took him, say, 6 races to find his feet again at Racing Bulls, that's also quite a long time. So, but let's see how he continues the rest of the season. Let me go back to the chat. Hank says the Red Bull is in the bottom 5 car-wise. Yuki drove the car in the sim and made his statement. The reality was way worse. Yeah, there is a bit of a difference between the wind tunnel or the sim and the reality. I've heard many complaints about that. And Tanvir says Red Bull car is so tricky to rate. It's in both ends of the spectrum. Yeah. That was Tanvir. Ivan says, I also heard that Aston Martin Racing was interested in Yuki at some point. Yeah, everybody keeps saying that because Honda is doing the engines next season. Tanvir says Liam did a great comeback recently. True, I mentioned that. And Lawson's only 2 points behind Isaac now, which also I've noticed. I think it's 20 points to 22 points. That's pretty good. Hank says Liam got butchered by the press, which was expected, something like that. Okay, and there's Vegas. Hello, Mr. Vegas. Lawson is coming along now. Too much hype in the beginning to live up to. Now he's pulling things together. Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Okay. Next driver is Carlos Sainz. I actually don't know why I've given him a C. maybe I felt sorry for him because he lost his seat at Ferrari, but seeing how his performances have been, it should be a D, really. What was I thinking? But anyway, Carlos Sainz, you know, every couple of years he needs to get used to a new team. And apparently the braking of the Williams car is very different than the Ferrari braking, because the Williams braking is braking on the engine as well, which the Ferrari car doesn't do. I read that yesterday. So this is something that he's struggling with. And then, yeah, he's been very unfortunate as well. Like, there was a race he couldn't start because his car was on fire. And what else happened? Just shitty strategy. But yeah, he's not doing too badly points wise. He just can't keep up with Alex Albon. But yeah, I think a D would have been in place as well. But I was feeling generous. Okay, next driver. Nico Hülkenberg. Yeah, Nico Hülkenberg went from Haas, which is a pretty bad team, to Sauber, which started off as a pretty bad team. I would have definitely given him a D as well if it wasn't for the podium he scored for Sauber. Yeah, that lifts you up. He's still doing a very good job. And see, when there's points for grabs, he does it. So it's like he's useless in races where he can't win anything. And then, yeah, he's very good in races where there's an opportunity. Hey, I see a new name in the chat. In the chat. It's 22 Chad Reed 22. Welcome, buddy. And C is for chump. Oh, that's what Polish Eddie said. C is for champion. Right. Everybody gets excited in the chat because of Hulk. Hulk for FIA president. Yeah, I love Hulk. Like, I'd love to meet a lot of the drivers, but Hulk is one of the top ones. Okay, and then the next driver is Esteban Ocon. Yeah, Esteban Ocon also moved from Alpine to Haas. Doesn't have the best package. Gets out-qualified by his teammate, Ollie Behrman. But still managed to outscore him by a pretty big margin when you look at points. I think there's a 10 to 15 point difference in the standings between them. Let me see if I can look that up. Standings 2025. Yeah, Esteban Ocon has scored 27 points and is 10th in the standings. And Oliver Behrman is 19th with 8 points. So that's probably why I gave Ocon a C. Ivan says, I would probably give B to Esteban. He adapted really good, given he has been literally kicked from Alpine last year. Well, it's very generous, but I think to get a B, yeah, you need to score, big points. And yeah, like what's the best position he finished in this season? P7, P8. He just did it a few times. Okay, Hank says Ocon scored big at the start of the season. And now he and Ollie are much more even. Yeah, well, like even though Ocon is new at that team, I think he should be able to beat a rookie. But Christina says Ocon had some pretty good qualities this year, but Haas is not a good car. Haas is always so weird in their development. Like, they do testing and they only do long runs. Then they do free practice sessions and pretty much only do long runs. And then, yeah, they start scoring points at the start of the season, and then slowly they just fall away. I've seen that with Haas a couple of seasons in a row now. I don't know how that's possible. I believe Ayu Komatsu is a very good team principal. So let's see what they do next season. But Eddie says it's crazy that if Max had the same amount of points as the second highest scoring Red Bull family driver on the grid, then Red Bull would be in 8th place in the constructors. Yeah, that is a very random fact, Eddie. I'm not even at the normal drivers yet. I'm at the team changers. Although I might be done now, or which other driver has changed teams? Who could it be? Hey! Lewis Hamilton. Now, Lewis Hamilton, it gets a C from me because I expected him to be worse. I expected him to be much further away from Leclerc. I expected him to crash a few times. I expected him to fall out big time with the team and Leclerc. He managed to win a sprint race, which sort of pumped his rating up, in my opinion. And also, how can I say this? I hated him when he was at his best in 2021, when he was fighting with Max. And now that rivalry is gone and he's suffering so much, I'm starting to sympathize with him. Does that make sense? So, yeah, I'm giving him a C. Could change. If I do an end of season rank in the grid and he does all the things that I just said, falling out with the team and falling out with Leclerc and incidents and stuff, which would be awesome, by the way, then I'll rank him lower or higher. You never know. Okay, so this is all the team changers. Let me see what the chat has to say. Tanvir says, I expected him to be much closer to Leclerc. Okay. So Tanvir is disappointed in Lewis Hamilton. And there's Pat Quakernat. Hello, Pat. Hamilton never fully recovered from 2021. He's a mental wreck and unable to deliver, and it seems he lacks the talent to stay close to Charles. Those are your words, not mine. But I see what you mean, though. Personally, I think that Lewis Hamilton needs all the stars to align. To have a car that's completely suitable to him, and then his talent can take him to the top, right? And this is what happened at Mercedes, where he consistently scored poles and wins. But 2022 came, and he needed to adapt to a completely new way of driving, and he didn't cope with that very well. And this is a worrying fact, because next year's cars will be a lot weirder to drive as well, from what I've heard. From being really handy in deploying your energy over different parts of the lap without running out, to the car being differently shaped, and the balance is different. And I think he's going to struggle a lot more in 2026 with the new car. That's what I think. And I think that if Red Bull delivers a decent car, one that does all the different departments pretty well, then Max, with his ability to drive anything, because he's used to sim driving and karting, and he can pretty much drive anything. I think Max and his talent and his adaptability can make the difference. That's what I think. But we're not talking about predictions for 2026 yet. We're talking about Lewis Hamilton and why I gave him a C. Yeah, well, even though he's making a huge drama in the last couple of races, I don't think he's been too bad. And that's the thing with him as well, that if he puts the car on the second starting row, then he's really enthusiastic, and he says, yeah, things are really coming together. And then a few upgrades get put onto the car, and he needs to adapt. And he qualifies P12, and he's like, it's always the same thing, and it's lack of talent, and Ferrari should replace me. And yeah, he's a big old drama queen. I see more new names. Greet de Keizer. Hello. I don't have to guess where you're from. She's a Dutchie like me. Okay. Tamveer says, I'll rate him a bit lower. Okay. Mafadelo says, Louise had a sprint win. I can live with a C, but it should be a D. Well, I suppose if he didn't have the sprint win, I would have put him on a D as well. Christina says, I would give him a D, as in depressing. Yep. Ivan says, not sure why, but I was sure Lewis would easily beat Charles. I never ever was his fan, but still thought he could repeat what he did in 2013. Yeah, this is something that people do a lot. They look at the past, and then they say, see, this is what's going to happen. A lot of people think Mercedes are going to be brilliant next season because they once invented a great hybrid engine. So now all of a sudden they're the engine experts, and they're going to develop the best engine for 2026. But people are forgetting that Ross Brawn, as early as 2007, started this whole Mercedes hybrid engine project. And that's why the engine was so good. But anyway, that's a different topic. Oh, great. You're from Belgium. Excuseer. Pat Quakermaat says, definitely a D. Oh, and Greet says, once Rosberg left and Bottas came in, they handed him 3 championships. D is his spot. D as in Delulu. Henk says, that's so great. In the Netherlands, prefixes are usually not attached to the surname. Oh, Henk, you're so clever. He's an expert in everything. A C for Sir Lewis Hamilton is fair, says Vegas. And if Vegas says so, it's true. Okay, let's go to the next chapter. the rest of the grid. Lance Stroll is getting a C. Because he's actually not been too bad this season. He hasn't crashed going to the grid. He hasn't put his car in the gravel as often. He's been quite unlucky with his hand. We did hear about him having a tantrum in the pit box again, but that was never confirmed. And for a while there, he was owning Alonso, but then Alonso got angry and the car got a little bit better, and now now Alonso is handing it to him again. And I believe Lance Stroll hasn't won a qualifying against Alonso in how many races? Does anybody know how many races Alonso has beaten Stroll? Is it 48, 45? I don't know. So yeah, Stroll has not been too bad, and people love hating on him, but I think he's been solid. And like, people love to hate on him like it would change anything, but his father's not going to replace him. So he's there, might as well enjoy it. It is what it is. Okay, and the next driver is Lando Norris. Yeah, I'm going on a bit of a rant here. Lando Norris is kept up by this beautiful MCL 39 he has, and luck. If you see the number of races where he fumbled starts, where he fumbled qualifying positions, where he crashed out into the back of Piastri. Just overall, he had like two convincing races, two races that he started from pole and won. And the rest of the time, it's all so-so. But for some reason, safety cars come in whenever he needs it. He's forced to do a strategy that turns out to be the quickest strategy. And yes, you need to drive these wonderful stints to keep those hard tires alive, like he did in Hungary. But any other driver in his position, making the mistakes that he made and not getting the luck that he had, would finish a lot lower than he is right now. That's a fact. So I'm still giving him a C. But if Norris had performed at level B, yeah, he would have been leading the championship. So that's why I'm pretty harsh on him, because there's definitely a lot of room for improvement still. And you know, a C for a rookie is actually a good grade, but a C for a guy who's been around since 2019 in the best car on the grid is actually quite low. Yeah? Because I believe somebody in a car that good should be an A or a B, at least, in my opinion. But let's see what the chat has to say. Oh, Tanvir is still talking about Lewis. I'm hearing some theories that Lewis lost his raw speed at around 2019, and the dominance of Merck kept his weakness away and all started to show up in 2022. That could be true. And Hank says Stroll is beating Alonso at the moment. Actually, he's not beating Alonso anymore at the moment. Alonso has done a comeback. Christina says Lance is actually pretty impressive this year. And Greet says lacks respect and dedication but at times he can be surprising. Yeah, he's especially good in the wet. Sometimes. In points, Stroll and Alonso are neck in neck, says Tanvir. And Pat Quaker Nat says Lando should have already have 60 points more. Makes too many mistakes. B. But a B is higher than a C. So, Pat, I think you mean C, like me. Ivan says, totally agree about Lando. He's been too lucky so far this season. Sorry, I'm not about to offend anyone. And Christina says, how many times has he been saved by split strategy that screwed Oscar? Definitely. And I think Marie will agree with you on this because she's from Australia. But I haven't heard her so far. Hey, and 22 chat, where are you from? Lose 2 positions at the start, but gets the winning strategy. Exactly. So lucky. And Tanvir says Imola and Hungary. Yeah, in Imola, Norris beat Piastri because a safety car came in, and there was no point for Piastri to go in, and yeah, he was overtaken by Norris. Hank says Lando Norris is learning late, but still. I don't like him for the excuses he's making, but still he's fast. Oh, and that's the thing. Lando can drive a beautiful, beautiful long stint and save tires and everything. He's great at that. But he lacks racing skill or a racing brain, And whenever he has to overtake Max, it takes 3 laps too long, where Piastri does it, boom, like that. That's the problem. Ah, there's Marie. Marie says, wow, I'm surprised with the C for Norris. And I'm not a fan of his. Christina, he's a very fast driver, but he's doing mistakes he shouldn't be doing in his 7th year. Exactly. And Greet says, in my book, a decent driver if he grows out of his lack of confidence. He cracks under pressure, unlike his current teammate. I agree with C, Wimbo. Thank you, Greet. Hank says, his learning curve is too flat indeed. And Christina says, C is solid if that McLaren car wasn't so forgiving of mistakes. The World Drivers' Championship is fully in Oscar's hand. And Vegas says, Norris and Oscar are both Bs. Every year I say Lance for the win. Maybe soon. Chat is Dutch. Right. Van harte welcome, chat. Although that's not your name. Okay, who's next on the list? Fernando Alonso gets a C. That's also a little bit of recency bias because he was asked at the start of the season. He's starting to feel his age as well. So I've heard. So, but yeah, he deserves this C because of the points he scored in the last races and his qualifying positions in the last couple of races. And I'm quite hopeful that we'll see more of Alonso in the rest of the season because all the big teams have stopped developing. And yeah, Adrian Newey, every once in a while, he'll give the design team for the 2025 car a few little hints. Have you looked in this and that corner? Have you thought about the such and such inlets? What if you put a corkscrew in there? Just little tips. And if they sort of fix that, then the car might be even better. And then we might even see an Alonso podium this season. How about that? But so far, I've given him a C. Okay, Next driver. Uh-oh, Marie's not happy. Oscar Piastri is getting a B. Now, because he's driving the best car on the grid, I'm actually very strict. And we have to be honest, if a driver of the caliber of Alonso or Max or Lewis, yeah, if they had the MCL39 at their disposal, they would leave Norris behind like 100 points at this stage. Yeah. Now Oscar is in his third year, so I don't blame him for it, but I can't give him an A because there's still a lot of room for improvement. Now he keeps a cool head. He's mentally very strong, so if he does make a mistake, then he'll get over it quickly. Then again, if you have such a good car, it's easier to have a good result to get over it quickly. But yeah, he's not letting the tension of a world title battle get to him, which is admirable. But still, we've seen mistakes. We've seen times where he could have put the car on pole, but made mistakes in qualifying, and he started away from pole, which made it difficult for him to win. There's been other occasions during the race that he just didn't do that as good as he should have done. His tire saving is not as good as it is as Lando Norris's tire saving is. So a B is a really good result, and if he sticks to a B, then he'll be a world champion. So he's got that going for him. If the pressure does get to him at the end towards, the deciding races, then he could drop to a C or a D, and then he'll lose the championship. So that's something to keep in mind. And he might go up to an A for the rest of the championship, and then he'll just win it with two fingers in his nose, as we say in Holland. Because all he has to do is qualify in front of Norris and finish in front of Norris. And Norris's luck will run out at some point. So, yeah, that's my idea on Piastri. And I love, love, love Oscar Piastri. I think he's really cool. Although I'd love to see a little bit more fire in him, the good relationship between him and Norris be damned. This might be his only opportunity to win a fucking championship, and he needs to do whatever it takes. And letting Norris get back to 9 points in the standings, not the right way to go about it. Let me see what people say in the chat. Christina says, "How can you not have Alonso in the rookie section? I'm so disappointed in you, Wim." Well, we've been making the Alonso rookie joke for 9 years now, so sorry if I'm done with it. Tanvir says, "I want to see Alonso win again." Everybody does, because that last win was foul. Mavadelo says, "Fernando is default S tire, but okay, have it your way." What does that mean, S tire? Hank says the AMR isn't great, but Alonso is starting to bloom. A B is okay for Oscar. Oh, Marie B, I'm glad you're happy with a B for Oscar. I was a little worried there. And chat says Leclerc. Yeah, we'll get him later. Christina says B is okay, is good, but I'd love to see him perform in a worse car. Yeah, That's true, because the car was worse at the start of last year, and it was really bad in 2023, and then yeah, but then that was his rookie season as well. And Greet says most of his career, Alonso was at the A level. Sadly, bad choices in politics dragged him down. These days, the car and his age are also in play, but he's a very good tactical and talented driver. Beautifully spoken. Hank says, I like Piastri's undercooled demeanor. I like that too. Christina says, I hope we will see more papaya battles in the second half of the season. Also true. Piastri will be the biggest problem for Max in the future. He's pretty new and still can grow to a substantial amount. Keep an eye on him. Oh, we will. Tanvir says, honestly, except for first few races where Max put some excellent drive and the rest of the title fight was boring. Not S tier, Wim. S tier. Yeah, sometimes I pronounce words different. Ivan says, Oscar is dangerous. Let's not underestimate him. Okay, let's go to the next driver. What? Who the hell put Max Verstappen there? He's the best driver on the grid. Well, actually, I put in there because due to circumstances of having a bad car and the FIA being blind when stuff was being done to him, he lost a bunch of points with bad decisions. In Spain, ramming into Russell, we still don't know exactly what he was trying to do there, but that was a big mistake. And a few races before that, he also lost points trying something that he shouldn't have tried, but I'm not exactly sure what that was. Like, I don't blame him. I feel he knows that he's not in the best car, that he knew for quite a while that he was not in the championship. So he lost a bit of his sharpness. He's still bloody fast, and I don't think there's any other driver on the grid that could get out of that car what he's getting out of that car. But still, I can't rank him as the highest level driver because of the couple of big incidents there were. And the drivers that I've ranked higher, I haven't seen, or I don't remember any of them being in big mistakes like that. So that's why I have my favorite driver. My whole room is full of Max Verstappen merchandise. But I rank him as third best driver of this season. That's how fair I am. Thank you. I don't think... What? Who's unsubbing? Mafadelo, he agrees with me for a B. Pat says, personally, I think Max is having one of his best years. But like Max says, it's not important now, focus on wins. Wasn't that the Russell incident in Spain? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, Vegas, you're a bit harder on Max, giving him a C. But I think the equipment he has plays a part as well. Hank, we are ranking drivers and driver car team combos. I've taken everything into consideration. And Greet says, Max is A+ all day long. A true racer, and for me the best I have seen. Remember, he's driving probably the worst car on the grid. If it was for Max, RB would be dead last. Yeah, that's just your Belgian bias coming in because Max is also Belgian. Um, well, he was born there. In Silverstone, Max had low downforce and the FIA let him race under the rain. If Max in Spa had Max downforce and the FIA waited for the. No, I do agree with those things that haven't helped him, but Polish Eddie says, "Yeah, I don't know, Wimbo. If you're not going to give Max the respect he deserves, along with a proper grade of an A plus, I'm done with this channel, unsubbed. I hope you don't mean this, because I think I explained it pretty well. There have been races where he could have scored more points, but he made mistakes. And the drivers that I ranked higher than him didn't make those mistakes, and they were in very difficult cars as well. And a B, Piastri gets a B. The rest all get C's. So I think I've been fair. Christina also says a B for Max is fair. But if you gave an A to Russell, I am unsubscribing. Okay. Sorry, Wim. Not agreeing. All previous drivers are rated solidly. Solidly, I think you mean. That's what Hank says. Tanveer says, honestly, if we look at the points without Max, Red Bull would be dead last or second last. Yeah, I know all that. But I'm looking at his performance, and if he left anything on the table, and there were races where Max left something on the table. That's the last I'll say about it. Oh, I went too far. Okay, so George Russell is in a Mercedes, and a Mercedes hasn't been properly good in the hybrid era. They tried everything, and they thought they had the solution to their porpoising, and they thought they'd be faster than anybody without side pods, but it's been a mess. It's been a mess with Mercedes, and they never recovered. But this season, George Russell, I hate to say it, I don't recall George Russell making a huge blunder. I don't recall George Russell doing anything out of order. And for him just to put in the laps and let the results come to him, that's how he scored a bunch of podiums and even a win. That deserves an A for me. I don't think there has been one race where Russell left anything on the table. Now, you could say Monaco was really bad, yeah, because he got lapped a couple of times. But that was because he was stuck in the DRS train, and he even tried to get out underneath from that. What else was a bad race? Yeah, a couple of races ago, he didn't score any points, but that was because of the bad upgrade. Yeah. I don't think George Russell left much on the table, and that's why he deserves an A. And pretty much the same thing goes for Charles Leclerc. He's in that rough Mercedes. Leclerc is in that rough Ferrari. He had to deal with the whole hype of Lewis Hamilton joining. A lot of attention going to Lewis Hamilton. A car that's been changed for 99%, but not for the better. Still, he kept putting in solid results, beating his teammate, and managed to score how many podiums? Like 4 as well. So I think seeing the equipment he has and all the bad strategies and the nonsense that comes with Ferrari, I think he performed best out of everybody on the grid. And that's why with Russell, he gets an A. Yeah. That's my story. Okay. I have to scroll back a lot. So Christina is unsubscribing because I gave Russell an A. Polish Eddie says he's just kidding, obviously. B is fair for Max, but due to some of his antics. But yeah, he's the best ever. Have you guys seen the video with Chris interviewing Max and talking about him? Yeah, I love that that racing they did on the Nuremberg. That was great. Hank says, sorry, I'm not agreeing. All previous drivers. Oh, I've already read that one. Tanver says, honestly, if we look at the points without Max, Red Bull. Oh, I read that one as well. And that was towards Eddie. Polish Eddie says, what I said is just having a go at some reactions you would see from extreme Hamilton fans if someone were fairly judge him and objectively grade him. That's true, but we're different, Eddie. And Great says, no need to unsub, lol. Great discussion with a lot of opinions. Yeah. I'm enjoying this live stream, and that's why I'm already going longer than I normally do. And Vegas says, right on. Come on. And Samantha says, don't go, Christina. Christina won't go. And Tanvir says, my guess was correct that Charles would be on top. And Pat says, how many mistakes has George made? B at best. Well, Pat, what mistakes did Russell make? Like, I know a few years ago when he crashed out at Singapore and he fucked himself in Australia, and then he tried to blame Alonso for it, which worked. And then last year in Qatar with that nonsense with Max, and yeah, Russell has totally been not annoying this season, and then he has this contract discussion above his head as well. So I'm actually quite impressed with George Russell. Ivan says, A for George, crikey. Christina says, I'm having a proper meltdown now. Yeah. The Monaco thing I talked about. So now the car is an excuse for Russell. Forgotten Spain. Don't know what you mean by that, Hank. And Vegas says, actually very accurate. George is having his best season so far. Yes. In Monaco, he cut the chicane on purpose. Yeah, that wasn't a mistake. Samantha says, oof, Wimbo, I'm glad I'm not you at the moment. And Eddie says, George has been on this game, though. He definitely deserves an A. Christina says, I agree with the same ranking to Russell and Charles, but not an A. Okay. Eddie says, he has been impressive since his first season in Williams, but to be fourth in the championship right now, that's A worthy. Charles is driving his heart out, just like Max. Tanvir says, 2025 is weird. It's a weird season. Till Saturday, no one knows where everyone stands, and after Saturday, it becomes obvious who would finish where. A B plus, Christina. See, Samantha always wants to make things even more difficult. I already said I wasn't doing any minuses and pluses. Yes? Mavadelo says, personally, I think nobody deserved an A this year, and no way Charles and Russell were better than Max. Okay. But as always, I respect your opinion begrudgingly. Yes, well, we can't agree on everything. That would be boring. And Tanvir says, I don't remember any mistakes that he made this season. Exactly. The truth is Russell is pretty invisible, lurking in the shadows. Yes. But I sort of appreciate that as well. He's scoring podiums hyena style. Hyena, sorry. I am curious if you watched the interview Max did and how you liked and not liked it, if so. Yeah, no, I enjoyed that interview in the Ford car with that English bearded guy. Samantha says, I'm just trying to stop Christina unsubbing. And Vega says, I would also like to give Chuck a B. He needs to forget the other garage. Nah, Charles deserves an A. Right, guys. That was the whole grid. I've recorded a video. In the last couple of months, I haven't been happy with the amount of views that I'm getting. So I need to change a few things. So if this video comes out tomorrow night or Monday, you'll see that I've changed a few things. I've changed the position where I say, here's 3 seconds to leave a like. I've changed the chapters because I feel the 3-second chapter with the sound effect is taking people out of the video, and that will give them an opportunity to say, nah, I'm going to another video. And I've been working on my voice because a lot of times when I watch a video back from myself, I find that my voice is a little too high pitched and annoying. So I've been doing practices, trying to breathe from the belly and getting a better voice. I'm trying to get one of those trailer voices. In a world where Formula One is the #1 sport, join Wimbo Formula for the best videos on YouTube. There's Vegas again. Thank you for your support. So, so what I was saying about the changes to my videos. If you watch my video and you notice something, please let me know. If you like it better or if you think it's worse. If you have any ideas like, hey, why didn't you try this? Then I'm always open. Just be nice about it, because I hate criticism. Okay, let's see. Hey, Alex Albon is not on the list. Oh my god. I'm stupid. Right. Alex Albon also gets a C. But very good of you to notice, Srinivas Radhakrishnan. Srinivas Radhakrishnan from India, I presume. Yeah, Alex was missing. Great says, looser underwear. And yeah, will that give me a higher voice? Oh, Hank is asking people to like the video. Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you, Hank. Right, that's it for me. Everybody have a brilliant weekend. Enjoy your holidays. And I'll be back here next week with a live stream. And I'll have a video out Sunday night or Monday during the day. Everybody, take care now. Doei doei.